There's a hole in the bucket, dear Liza, dear Liza. There's a hole in the bucket, dear Liza, a hole. Then fix it, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry. Then fix it, dear Henry, dear Henry, fix it. With what shall I fix it, dear Liza, dear Liza? With what shall I fix it, dear Liza, with what? With a straw, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry. With a straw, dear Henry, dear Henry, a straw. But the straw is too long, dear Liza, dear Liza. But the straw is too long, dear Liza, too long. Then cut it, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry. Then cut it, dear Henry, dear Henry, cut it. With what shall I cut it, dear Liza, dear Liza? With what shall I cut it, dear Liza, with what? With a knife, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry. With a knife, dear Henry, dear Henry, with a knife. But the knife is too blunt, dear Liza, dear Liza. But the knife is too blunt, dear Liza, too blunt. Then sharpen it, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry. Then sharpen it, dear Henry, dear Henry, sharpen it. With what shall I sharpen it, dear Liza, dear Liza? With what shall I sharpen it, dear Liza, with what? With a stone, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry. With a stone, dear Henry, dear Henry, a stone. But the stone is too dry, dear Liza, dear Liza. But the stone is too dry, dear Liza, too dry. Wet the stone then, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry. Wet the stone then, dear Henry, dear Henry, wet it. With what shall I... Wow, he's taking a long time to figure this out, isn't he? With what shall I wet it, dear Liza, dear Liza? With what shall I wet it, dear Liza, with what? With the water, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry. With the water, dear Henry, dear Henry, the water. In what shall I fetch it, dear Liza, dear Liza? In what shall I fetch it, in, dear Liza, in what? Uh-oh. Fetch the water in the bucket, dear Henry, dear Henry. Fetch the water in the bucket, dear Henry, fetch it. Do you see what's going to happen here? But there's a hole in the bucket, dear Liza, dear Liza. There's a hole in the bucket, dear Liza, a hole. Have a good day.